Welcome to our posts. Today we will see stories of am I the a-hole? Am I the a-hole for making my parents replace my toys they decided to give away? I'm moving to another city for work. Since I'm an adult and not a college kid, I hired movers. My parents insisted on coming down to help me pack up. I live in their basement suite. It was cheap and they let me have my privacy. They brought my brother and my nephew. The four of them were as helpful as a bag of used horse condoms. Especially my nephew. My parents decided to keep him busy by giving him one of my Lego sets to play with. I collect them. What I usually do is buy two of the same one. I build one, put it up for display and leave the other one in the box to trade or sell. He took it upstairs to stay out of the way, then he took it home. All I noticed is that he was out from underfoot. The next day I saw the box on the garbage. I didn't assume. I knew the answer already, but I didn't assume. I went upstairs to talk to them. I asked where the Lego box came from. They said they gave it to Travis to keep him busy. I told them that they needed to replace it. They said I was being childish for caring so much about a toy. I said they could replace it or I would file an insurance claim, and that would probably require a police report. My dad got angry. He pulled out $70 and told me I was an a-hole for making a fuss over a toy. I asked him if that was a down payment. He said that is what he spent on the last Lego gift he got me for Christmas, and that is what those helmets cost. I showed him the box. I told him to keep his money. He just had to give me a sealed box like the one he stole. He said he didn't steal anything. He took the box and went to the Lego store nearby. When he came back, he was apologetic. He said he would get it back from my nephew. I said I wanted a sealed box with the TIE Fighter helmet. I even went on eBay to help him find one cheaper than he had found by himself at the collectibles store the guy at the Lego store sent him to. With shipping it would only be $300. He ordered it. He isn't happy about it. My mom is upset that I'm expecting that much money for a toy. My dad is upset that I didn't explain before he went and made a fool of himself at the store. I'm upset that they stole from me. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole. They had no business giving away your property. They need to consider themselves lucky they didn't give away something with a really wild collector's value. That $300 is a cheap learning experience. Not the a-hole. You handled this beautifully. You held your ground and created a situation in which your dad had to figure out for himself how badly he messed up. His irritation now is his embarrassment at having screwed up. It's okay to let him learn that lesson. I'm sure he'll never make this mistake again. Ignore his posturing. Not the a-hole. I hope your dad learned his lessons. He saw a toy, but looks can be deceiving. He should also have learned that he is no longer the boss of you. Next story. Am I the a-hole for moving out of my parents' house when my brother and his family moved in? There is a whole lot of unnecessary backstory I will leave out. I rented my parents' house after they retired and moved south. I paid slightly below market rate. The plan was for me to save up and eventually buy the house at a great price. They would then give that money to my brother as his part of their estate. My share was the subsidized rent and the very subsidized purchase agreement. Everyone thought this was fair. Until my brother's wife started running up debts they couldn't cover. This led to them losing their home and needing help. I love my brother and my nephews, so when my mom asked me if they could move in, I talked to my husband and we agreed. We are in the process of adopting 2 siblings, but we are still not there. It was only going to be temporary, so why not? Half off the rent for a few months would totally help us with the down payment and expenses. They moved in February. When March rolled around, I transferred half my usual rent to my parents. My mom called to ask me where the rest was. I said I assumed that Brad was paying the other half. Nope. I had to pay all the rent. I asked why I had to pay for them to stay in my house. My mom said it wasn't my house yet and that I was being mouthy. I saw the writing on the wall. I paid the rent and started looking. We had a good amount saved up and we didn't need a big old house with lots of maintenance issues we had been handling. We paid the full rent in April as well. But we moved out and into the house we closed on. It was ready for immediate possession. With my husband and I having decent income and 25% down, it went smoothly. The only downside is the much smaller yard. But it is a block away from a public park, so we aren't losing much. I did tell my parents we were leaving. May 1st I got another call from my mom. She wanted the rent. I said I wasn't living there anymore. She said I was breaking our deal. I said that our deal never included me paying for my brother's living expenses. She said that they couldn't afford to cover the mortgage without my rent. I told her to get money from my brother. He was still working. She said he was trying to pay his debts. I said that his wife should get a job. I could write a much longer post just on this discussion. Long story short, she said I was being cheap and viscous to my brother and to my parents. We are settling into our newish house and just ignoring them for a while. But I'm wondering about if maybe I'm wrong. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Definitely not the a-hole. You didn't sign up to start supporting your brother and his whole family. And you were courteous when you paid the full rent and informed your mom you were moving out. Did your brother even say thank you for spotting his rent? Opie replies. No, he didn't. We barely talked. He is somewhat ashamed of his current situation since he always made fun of me for living at home while he was out making something of himself. You gave them more notice of leaving than they gave you that you'd still be paying full rent to house a second family. So not the a-hole. But let's be real, you were never getting to own that house as long as your brother's family needed it. You'd probably have to evict them and deal with months of family drama and animosity. You did the right thing for your family. Especially since you're trying to adopt. Owning a home and not having too many people in it are major factors in that process. Opie replies. It would have been an issue for sure. Not the a-hole, your deal wasn't to cover rent for your brother and his family. I did tell my parents we were leaving. May 1st I got another call from my mom. She wanted the rent. I said I wasn't living there anymore. She said I was breaking our deal. I said that our deal never included me paying for my brother's living expenses. She said that they couldn't afford to cover the mortgage without my rent. I told her to get money from my brother. He was still working. She said he was trying to pay his debts. I said that his wife should get a job. Long story short, she said I was being cheap and viscous to my brother and to my parents. You aren't being cheap, your brother and parents are. Not the a-hole. You would have been if you hadn't given your parents a heads up and just moved out. But you did. Opie replies. I didn't want to leave them high and dry. My brother makes good money. The tent I was paying is probably 1/3 of his old mortgage. Next story. Am I the a-hole for evicting my brother and his family from the house I have inherited so my daughter can live there? I, 40F, have a daughter, Caroline, 17F, my brother Adam, 34M, is married and has 2 kids under the age of 5. Back when I was in my 20s, our great-grandmother ended up with an illness which required someone to take care of her. This ended up being me as everyone else was busy with their lives and I have only recently graduated from uni back then. Due to this, when she passed away, I have inherited the house she lived in, which is a small 2-bedroom. I have lived there until I got married and me and my husband ended up moving to a bigger property. About a year later, my brother asked if I'm willing to rent it out to him, which I agreed to do, but have warned him I will need it back when Caroline turns 18, she was 3 at the time, since it is very close to universities and city center. Legal agreement was drafted for the rent, significantly below market value, so everything was followed by the book. About a year ago, I have informed my brother about needing the house back as my daughter is going to be 18 and I would like to have some repairs done before she moves in. My brother ignored me, so I have issued him notice to vacate, which was also ignored. As he continued to ignore me, I had no choice but apply for a court order to evict them, with hearing taking place last month. Last week him and his family were officially evicted. Upon getting into the house, I have noticed it was in horrible condition and it would take a few months just to make it somewhat habitable, let alone do redecorating or repairs. I have raised this with my brother since he was meant to look after the house and let me know of any repairs, but this talk ended up in an argument where I was called an a-hole for evicting him and his family so my spoiled daughter can live by herself and not giving them enough notice. They had just over a year to find something suitable. He also said I have inherited the house by cheating. My parents are on his side since Adam and his family live with them. Top comments. Not the a-hole. He's lived there for roughly 14 to 15 years paying substantially below market rent prices, which should have allowed him to save a considerable sum to put towards a home of his own. He clearly chose not to, as he had to move in with your parents. His life choices are not your problem. Regarding the state of the home, did you not visit him over the years and notice the deterioration? Or is there revenge damage caused shortly before they moved? Opie replies. A bit of both really, as well as clever placed furniture, so it wasn't noticeable up until now. Not the a-hole. But I don't know why you're raising the issue of repairs when you evicted him. That sibling relationship is clearly fractured and I don't know what you're expecting to get from any conversation. Opie replies. According to the rent agreement, he was meant to keep the house in a good condition and inform me if anything needs to be done, so I could get it fixed. So, Adam has known he had to move since your daughter was 3 and now she's 17, so that's a math problem. Math tells us that Adam has known for 14 years that he would have to move out of your house. In what Looney Tunes world is that not enough notice? Curious, was Adam just lazy and let the house fall into disrepair, or did he trash the house intentionally because you evicted him? Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister that IDC about the baby she lost? I, 20M, and my sister, 23, have been very close since she lost her baby. She lost the baby at the end of 2022, when she was about 5 months pregnant. Obviously, our whole family was shocked and very supportive initially. However, I really tried to help her through this and get her back on her feet, coming to her apartment to clean and cook her food. It also doesn't help that her baby daddy left shortly after. My sister was unable to work because of her depression, so my family would help chip in and pay her bills. She remained like this for about 7 months when my parents told her that they couldn't no longer support her, when all she does is lay in bed and smoke a lot, like 24/7, but they don't know that, and that she at least needs to look for a job. She lashed out and said she needs their support now more than ever. Regardless of them, I began to solely supporting her. Mind you, I still live with my parents and attending school. That brings us to last Friday. I have about 3 semesters left of school and money has been getting tight. I told my sister that I really need to start saving, and that she needs to get a job, or just move back in. She lashed out on me, saying that I could never understand, 100% true, and that I was a terrible brother for even mentioning it. I said, excuse me. I've paying for your bills for over a year, and have been the only one trying to help her get over this. She began yelling at me and calling me terrible names. I just snapped and said IDJF about her dead baby. I did none of this for that baby. I helped her because I love my sister, I want what's best for my sister, I want her to recover. I told her this and she started attacking me. I just left. The next morning my parents sat me down and told me what I said was very wrong and rude. I explained what happened and how I still continued paying her bills after they stopped. They just were quiet and then just left. My mother grabbed my shoulder and told me that my sister started apply for jobs. I really feel bad, but also to a certain degree it worked and she is at least looking to work. I know my sister will forgive me eventually, but I still feel bad. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole. You probably could have handled the argument with your sister better, but you went way above and beyond to support her, and honestly it sounds like she was taking advantage of you. At the end of the day, we're all human, and financial stress combined with being insulted by the largest source of said financial stress is enough to push anyone to the edge. Not the a-hole. I've lost 4 babies, 2 sets of twins during fertility treatments with my husband. We have grieved for years, roller coaster of ups and downs. But no one else has ever financially supported us, taken us in, or allowed us to wallow in our pain for too long. Nor have we allowed ourselves to do that. We are still grieving and probably always will, but we have to keep moving forward, too. What helped the most? Friends who would listen, journal writing, crying when I needed to, but I have always wiped my tears away when it was time to and gotten up to keep moving forward. That is imperative for recovery of a loss. You've been a great brother and your family should be proud of you. I hope they are. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel our posts.